when you're on our shows, and somebody that our viewers definitely do look up to. Thank you so much.
That's very kind.
Viewers, today our topic is seeking knowledge from cradle to the grave. That famous ayah from the Holy Quran, but what does it mean? We discuss the importance of continuous growth through gaining that ilm, that knowledge. Is it down to us? Is it down to our communities? What can we do in our lives to make sure we are on that continuous path of growth of knowledge, inshallah? And what better person to answer that with yourself? So can we start with the Quran? Because I think everything starts with the Holy Quran. What is said in the blessed book about, we know this seeking knowledge from cradle to the grave, but what does that mean? Is there other ayat as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great choice of topic that you've gone with, seeking knowledge. And anyone who's a Muslim or who reads the Quran or goes to majalis and lectures will always hear the same thing again and again and again.
Yeah.
The stressing on gaining knowledge.
Yeah.
From the cradle to grave, go as far as China. It is the belonging of the mu'min, of the believer. There are levels a person can't reach unless they have ilm, for example. Knowledge seems to be one of the central themes of the religion of Islam. It's as if this deen wants you to be an avid thinker, an independent analyzer, someone who can evaluate, and someone who, as we'll discuss, has ilm which is useful for their qalb, for their heart.
Yes.
Knowledge is not just some quality that we assign to the intellectuals and academics to go and prove to us how smart they are. It's not a tool to use to show off. Neither is it just a quality among other qualities. In Islam, ilm is so distinct. It is and the one who gains knowledge and travels for knowledge and seeks knowledge and is restless until they gain knowledge. The Quran questions us like, why aren't you like this? أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ? Do they not think? Do they not ponder? أَفَلَا يَعْمَلُونَ? Do they not have ilm? Why are they like this?
Yes.
And so many times I read somewhere that the ilm in this way, in an almost like an accusative way, or in the fi'l where you're asking about something, the amr, sorry. This comes up over 20 times where you are being asked in the Quran, do you not think? Have you not pondered on this? Have you not realized? Or Allahu ya'lamu, Allah goes, وَلَا تَفْعَلُونَ, but you don't know. But God knows.
Yes.
Even to prophets, they are spoken to like this.
Yeah.
The reason why Musa ala nabiyina goes on that journey with Khidr is because, and we don't have time to go into it right now, like he's told frequently, you thought you knew something, you thought you had the ilm of something, but there was so much more that you didn't gain. Hatta in the Quran, our prophets are saying, Rabbi zidni ilman, Rabbi zidni ma'rifatik. God, give me knowledge, give me ma'rifat. And these are prophets of God who are not satisfied with how much knowledge they have until now.
Yeah.
Because they're perfect, they're anbiya.
There you go.
But the one thing that a prophet is still continuously growing in is knowledge.
Of course.
It's not like they're ma'soom. Infallibility means they have absolute knowledge. They are on their own journeys of gaining ilm. And that's what comes up in the Quran a lot. The idea they must seek knowledge and that they don't reach a level until they have knowledge.
Yeah.
And there are many ayat of Quran about this. The first verse, Iqra bismi rabbika, the first verse is about speak. And it ends by saying to the Holy Prophet when he's in that cave and the mission hasn't even begun yet, it's just starting now, that God knows certain things that you don't know. And you rely on God. Because ilm is, of course, a quality of God. He is al-alim, he's the one who knows. And many ulama say that knowledge is a part of the essence of God. It's not some quality which only comes out in actions. I'll give you an example, just to kind of make this point quite clear. And then we'll move on to all the other things. God is a creator, he's khaliq. He makes things, he creates things, he does ijad, he gives wujud, existence to different things. But we had never seen that quality until there was something to be given existence to. Like it's when someone was born or Adam was created or the earth was created. Okay, now I see the quality of God. But it was always there. We just hadn't seen an action which showed that quality of God. Mercy is kind of like this. I know God's merciful. But until you see an example of it, you don't understand what that quality looks like. Ilm is not like that. Ilm exists whether there's someone there to experience it or not. The ilm of Allah, knowledge of God,
always there.
It's continuous. And it doesn't need an action to be known. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of different in that way. There are other qualities which are kind of like this where they are dhati, and there's a big discussion in theology between the Ash'ari and Mu'tazili about, what qualities of God are central to his essence and what qualities of God are only manifest in his actions. That's a different discussion, but ilm is central to it. Now come to me and you. Me and you read the Quran. We have our own lives, our issues we're going through in our worlds. We read this book, inshallah, to grow and to become better human beings, inshallah, and walk the path towards God. And the Quran asks us, do you not realize how great? The verse says, Hal yastawi. الذين يؤمنون الذين يعلمون الذين لا يعلمون. Do you not notice that those who have ilm are not the same as those who don't have ilm? They are not the same. Those people who are يعلمون, who have knowledge, are simply of a different quality to those who don't have it. And don't compare these things if they are not there.
Yes.
But I'll mention one quick thing to make this very clear for all of us. When the Quran mentions ilm, it is not the type of knowledge where necessarily me and you go and Wikipedia something or Google something and now I have ilm.
Yes.
Ilm is different.
Yes.
Actual ilm is of a different quality.
Yeah.
For example, in the Quran, it's kabaru maqtan and Allah. It's one of the worst sights in the eyes of God that you know something and you don't do what you know.
Don't act upon it, right?
So it's not just about knowing anymore.
Yeah.
It's about doing things.
That's sant.
Ilm, the word ilm comes from ayn, lam and mim.
Yes.
From the same roots comes amal as well, action. They are part of the same reality.
That's it.
So the Quran is urging you to act and to do aqimus salat, like establish prayer, do things to prove what is outside matches what's inside.
Yes.
So in Islam, ilm is not just a knowledge that you keep as a prepositional knowledge in your mind.
Yeah.
In Islam, ilm is something which affects your whole behavior. And the other thing I'll mention now, when you read the Quran and you see the words knowledge or ilm or these things, it's something which is of a divine quality. It's not like a person who's not a Muslim, has nothing to do with Islam, has loads of knowledge and that person's an alim. No.
Yeah.
Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says in that famous narration to Unwan al-Basri that ilm, knowledge, is a light from Allah, which He places in the hearts of those who have the capacity for it. Now, this knowledge is so different to any other type of knowledge. It's not about how many PhDs you have or how much you've read or how, how good your elocution and oratory is. It's not about your speaking and about your vocabulary. This is the light from God.
That's it.
You've seen and I've seen people who have studied so much, but there's not sincerity in them.
That's right.
And you and I have seen people who are just normal, ordinary people with no specialist background, but they seem to have a certain itmi'anan and knowledge and contentment that is distinct. It's because it comes from God.
Yes.
Ilm is so different to any other knowledge we'll find.
Definitely. No, I think that's a really good starting point, and I think you really hitting the nail on the head there by saying we can have all the knowledge in the world, but if we don't act on it, it's like having something that is really unsatisfactory. You're holding something within your hands and grasping it, keep it for yourself.
100%.
But you're not acting upon what you've known. If you know how to do a certain action and you don't do something with it, sometimes we see people, like you said, in our communities that have attended majalis all their lives. They behave in a certain way, they come to a mosque, they recite Quran, but when you see them out of that environment, they're not acting upon the knowledge that they have. True?
Yeah, very true.
We do, alhamdulillah.
And that's the point. That's not true knowledge. True knowledge is seen, not just believed to have been had. God says to the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, amanu. If you claim you have belief, believe more.
There you go.
Prove it, show it.
Continuously show it, right? Exactly.
Don't say I am a person of belief and that's it. That this knowledge, which is immaterial, does not end. You need to prove it with more continuous growth. It's in the nature of knowledge that you want more of it and you're not satisfied with an amount that you already have.
That's it. You become thirsty for it.
Yeah.
Even contained within the word knowledge, there's no ledge. If you break the word down, there's no ledge to it. It never stops. It's continuous. You can never get to the end of it. Back in the day, people used to think that the earth was flat, and you'll get to the edge and you'll drop off. We've come to know, obviously, it's a sphere. It's going round, and knowledge is continuous.
The belief at that time I was reading this was that they believed that you have the earth naturally, and they'd never seen the globe coming towards any curvature. But when they dug down, they would find water. So maybe the earth is resting on water. But when they dug further down, they found larger bodies of water. So they believed the earth was like a disc which was suspended above water and just kind of floated there. And that was the entire scientific consensus for centuries. And that's why even scientific knowledge is insufficient. Because at that time, that was the height of scientific knowledge.
That was the height. You're talking philosophers, and you're talking Aristotle and Socrates, and they all believed in the world being flat.
And then they used those arguments to show the ilm, the knowledge of science is so much greater than, for example, faith and Islam. Because look, science proves something, and your book says something else, so your book must be wrong. Okay, so when that scientific theory simply changes, as science is in the nature of changing, literally in the next generation, so what? Now the Quran becomes right all of a sudden because it happens to agree with the scientific consensus at the time. True knowledge is not found in those places.
No.
True knowledge is found in the heart of the one God has blessed.
That's it.
And those people who gave us the Quran, on whom the Quran was revealed on his heart, and his family who saved this Quran and transmitted this Quran, they give us true knowledge. Imam al-Baqir says, you will never gain ilmun sahih, true knowledge, في مشرق أو في المغرب, in the east or the west, إلا بمعنى أهل البيت, except with us.
Yeah.
We'll give you that true knowledge. And that's our metric.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. As we're talking about the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, let's look at the Prophet, the life of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. What resources were available to him at his time to gain knowledge? Obviously, he had the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but pre-revelation, announcing his prophethood, how did he gain his knowledge?
So there are two types of knowledge that we find in books of theology. علم الحصول, علم الحضوري. Huduri is when something is, descended upon you in revelation. Knowledge, the exact way of saying it could be presential knowledge. Now, it's not just wahi of the Holy Prophet. Whenever you have a spiritual experience, you are in Salat al-Layl, you are praying, you're in dua. Some people sometimes in dreams, for example. When you get that kind of knowledge, it is of a different quality. It is from God directly. Then you have ilm al-husuli, which is acquisitional knowledge. You see something, you hear something, you touch something, and you start to grow a kind of, empirical base of understanding the world. It's called phenomenology. It's when you start to understand how knowledge feels, and you make it a part of yourself.
You get the texture of it.
Right. When it comes to the Prophet, it's interesting. He receives wahy and revelation at what age, Neil?
40.
Right, exactly. Around that time. But he still has a connection to God before then. He still speaks to God and angels before then. Iqra is just saying, now speak the Quran, not that first time I'm talking to you. Okay? We have narrations well in the past of not just him, of his grandfathers, of Abdul Muttalib and others having communication with God. So that first type of knowledge, ilm huduri, is always with the Prophet. You can always speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through Hadith al-Qudsi, where God is speaking but it's not the Quran, the Prophet has many narrations from Allah directly which he can use to guide people. Then there's ilm husuli, there's what you see and what you do and what you touch.
That's right.
And in the Prophet you see a man who is giving parables to people based on things in front of them. He's not saying, am I not a sadiq al-amin? Have you not seen with your own eyes that I'm trustworthy? So now trust the news that I'm giving you. Or he's saying to them, do you see the example of the sun of Ibrahim saying, look at this way the sun goes down, that's not your Lord. Look at the way the sun rises again, would your Lord disappear and come again? So they're using what's in front of them to notice, understand the religion. Prophet says, the verse of Quran, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتُنَا فِي الْأَفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. There are some signs of God you will see in the horizons. Look at the horizons. And some signs you'll see in yourself. That verse has its own interpretation. The Prophet used both forms. Sometimes he would say, this is what God has told me, and give revelation to the Muslimin. Other times he'd draw on parables of things that happened before to remind them of what they have seen already. Do you not remember these communities which rose and fell? Do you remember the elephants which were destroyed in the battlefield? Imam Ali once says, beautifully, Imam Ali says in this, that I have studied and walked with all of the men of history. I have walked with those who came before. I have seen what they have seen, and now listen to the words I tell you of what they had learned. So it's like they used as examples of those who came before to give parables. And so that's one of the ways the Prophet used to guide people, through presential revelation, revelatory knowledge, and through examples of the world and historical figures to close the gap between people's understanding at that time and where Islam needed them to be to keep this religion going. So he used both.
MashaAllah. Beautiful.
Oh, I thought of another good one.
Please.
When he says narration, seek knowledge.
I love doing shows with you like that because you're like, bang.
No, it's the strength of the questioner which brings out the potency of the answer.
It's the knowledge within you that brings out the answer.
We're going to keep going for a long time. It's the knowledge in you which overflows. Inshallah. No, this narration, seek knowledge, go to China, seek knowledge, hatalshin, that narration. It's a beautiful narration. And part of it means travel and go far away to alien, difficult, unknown places to come back with knowledge. Prophet would beautify the pursuit of knowledge, not just the answers that were given. So many times the companions were told to go through certain experiences.
That's right.
Prophet could have easily told them, in that battle we're going to win that one, you're going to fight in that one. He could have told them easily what's going to happen. He has ilm al-ghayb, he could do it, no problem. But he wants them to go through the experience of acquiring knowledge, because that is tarbiyah for the soul. When he said go as far, he means go anywhere you need to gain knowledge. He once said that wisdom is the lost property of the believer. It belongs to you, but you don't have it right now. And so you getting it is not you gaining something new. You're reclaiming what was your right. Imam Ali said the same thing in Nahj Balagha. Ilm, wisdom is the lost property of the believer. It is yours. It is yours by right. So go and seek it. Go far away from it. And that's the feeling that was encouraged in the early years of Islam. Don't be rest and resigned on what you think you know. Go as far as you can to bring ilm back.
And sometimes it's what you learn through those difficult journeys. You know, the end destination, you might not find that treasure, but it might be through that journey. I remember when he beautifully says, the most difficult journeys have the greatest rewards. So when you see that, when you go through struggles, you learn more. You know, you get to my ripe old age and I could tell you I'm not a university student. You know, I came out of school and that's it, education-wise, but I learned more through my life, through the difficulties and struggles, because it's what you learn down here is what you'll gain when you're up here.
So true.
So, and it's those narrations and it's knowing that God is always with you and showing you these signs and feeding you that knowledge. It's being observant towards it continuously, having your blinkers off and understanding that every moment throughout the day you can gain knowledge and wisdom just by looking at the birds in the trees and the passing skies and the clouds and the water that's flowing. So, alhamdulillah, being open towards it.
He's speaking to Kumail bin Ziyad, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he's talking to him. He's saying to him, Kumail, what do you think is greater, knowledge or wealth, about this point that you're mentioning, right? About how you can look all around for knowledge. And he says to Kumail, look, if you said it's wealth, wealth is proportioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and given according to everyone's rights.
Yes.
Okay, your rizq. But knowledge is on you to keep increasing no matter how much has been given towards you. If you say it's wealth, wealth fades and diminishes, but knowledge sustains and keeps you going. If you say wealth is something which it is in the nature of wealth to decrease, wealth is in the nature of ilm to increase. And then he says that line which you were saying reminded me, he points to his chest.
Yes.
And he goes, come and look at me. Ha huna ilmun jama'a. Ilm is filled to the brim over here. And jama'a is when, you know, there's a dam.
Yeah.
And the dam literally can't take any more water.
It's going to break.
Yeah, it literally can't take more. It's literally packed to the top.
Yeah.
He goes, ilm is like filled here with me. What sprinkles in you overflows in me. So from here you gain ilm.
Yes.
That approach where I'm looking for knowledge like I'm thirsty, or like I have lost something, or like I need to go on a journey and I don't care how far it is, because what I'm getting is a treasure that is worth finding. That approach is what the Ahlulbayt and the Prophet established in us from a young age, in the age of Islam. That you have to seek knowledge like you are desperate for it, more than you seek wealth in the grind of work in a highly capitalist society. No, that's not what you are made for.
No,
you're made for increasing with God. And the more that you know yourself, man arafa nafsahu, faqad arafa rabbuhu. You will find your Lord in that journey. And don't forget it for a second. When Imam says to us, man nasiya nafsahu nasiya rabbuhu. If you forget yourself, you forget your Lord.
Yes.
So your whole life is this journey of increasing knowledge and finding God together.
God,
that's the point of religion.
Perfection of self. Knowledge of self is to know your God.
Precisely.
And if you continue that journey, I mean, I've just reread a book called The Alchemist. It's not a religious book.
It's a good book.
It's a great book, but it's literally about that journey towards destination. But within that journey, he seeks and finds God.
Yeah.
You know, within that whole thing, and he understands the soul of the world and everything that's around him. And then when he gets to his destination, I won't give away the ending, but you know, it's about that journey. And throughout that journey, he gains so much knowledge that he becomes an alchemist.
Right.
He has knowledge of everything around him. There's a point in there he even talks to the sun and talks to the wind and commands it.
Yeah.
Because he had that so much knowledge of what was around him. And it's so relatable to, you know, what our teachings of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, you know, tell us.
Most definitely.
It's amazing, actually. Speaking of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, we can't talk about knowledge without talking about Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam and Imam al-Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salam. The pillars, the fountain really of education and spreading knowledge. They had the freedoms in their time to be able to spread knowledge. Let's ponder on these two amazing individuals and what gave them that freedom and how were they able to spread it.
It was a distinct period of time, those decades in the history of the A'immah. It's true. Imam Ali, we have narrations from him, but much of Nahj Balagha is like private conversations someone wrote down, or sermons given at different times when he was situation necessitated giving lectures or speeches. But he's only in power for what, 3 or 4 years.
That's it.
It's not enough time to use the mimbar for an institution of learning when you're fighting 3 civil wars at once.
Exactly.
Undoing the innovations of those that came before you, and coming towards the end of your life during your own time.
Yes.
Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, again, the majority of time that their imamate continues, before Karbala for example, it is not like they are in an authority where they can establish knowledge as the status quo.
No.
And they're not the authority of knowledge in the entire Muslim ummah. People are going elsewhere for knowledge, right? That does tend to happen. when there is something of value, is not always appreciated during its time.
Yes.
Then you have Karbala, the Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And during the Imam alayhi salam's, our fourth Imam's life, he begins that transition you're talking about.
Yes.
It starts with him.
Yes.
Where one of my friends said this to me in such a beautiful way. I asked one of my close friends, what do you learn from Sajjad alayhi salam? Imam Sajjad, what do you learn from him? Or how do you think that our behavior should be affected by him? And he answered, Imam Sajjad is someone who took in grief, and from it, he made Sayfat al-Sajjadiyah, Risalat al-Huquq, all these du'as, and all of these books of rights, and the charitable lifestyle.
Yes.
Imam Sajjad does the transition from taking Karbala and using it as an impetus for advancing the community.
That's correct.
Not sitting with grief alone.
Yes.
Using grief, which is not easy when you're in that situation, to understand the purpose of why you are suffering and finding the beauty in it. But he found that in the blood that was spilt on Karbala, there is now a pure opportunity to gain true knowledge. And from Karbala until eternity, there'll always be a group which don't have to be in power. That's the point.
Yes.
They don't have to be in government. They don't have to be in power. Imam Hussein showed us you can practice on the principles without being the one who's in, material power.
Yes.
Sajjad alayhi salam does this. He starts teaching and establishing in Medina what would then become the early madaris of Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Imam Baqir al-Ulum, the splitter of knowledge. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had hundreds, some say up to thousands of students who would come regularly, because it's that time period between Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas when there's a power struggle happening.
Yes.
And indeed, when there is chaos and when there is anarchy and when there is no right to rule, there is also an opportunity in many of those situations to craft something new. And there was not as much persecution at that time. And so you find some of the best students came from that time.
Yes.
Your Hisham bin Hakams come from that time. Your others come from that time. Abdullah, because they had the chance to learn different types of knowledge at that time. You now have books of Greek literature being commented on and discussed by the students of the Imams. Because Ibn Abbas later on would translate those books and bring them in. But what about the ideas of Aristotle and Plato? What about them? What do we believe about them in our religion? It's in that time that we had an idea that knowledge is not just about the ahkam and about rulings only. It's much wider than that.
It's the wider
and these
universe.
two Imams had the opportunity to teach these things. Unfortunately, they were both assassinated. And our seventh Imam did not have long to continue in that form and was taken from prison to prison, initially in Baghdad.
Then the oppression started again, right?
It resumed again, but in a different form now. Now they realized you couldn't kill them. Because when you kill an Imam of Ahlulbayt and you martyr them in the way of Karbala, you create 1,000 revolutionaries after them who will not stop until they get justice. And so they imprisoned and the method changed. But the Imams also changed their approach to knowledge. They found different covert ways of teaching and educating, and companions became much smarter in how they gain knowledge. And the transition from Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, until Imam al-Askari is going from the most public university there is to the most private and concealed underground network of knowledge. And that transition happens throughout history as well.
Yes, definitely. Alhamdulillah, we know narrations of them leaving notes or secret signs or carrying messages in bread or things like that. And they found amazing ways to spread the knowledge because they were in captivity for most of their lives.
Exactly.
But, alhamdulillah that we've got that. So, the reason I wanted to start off the show with the blessed Quran, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, is because there's wisdom in it. There's something that we should be taking from that. And I'm really glad you talked about Karbala and the events, because obviously we travel on ziyarah and sometimes we go there. Yes, we cry and we lament and we talk to our Imam alayhi salam, but what do we learn from it? What do we gain from that particular lesson of Karbala? What do we take away from it? And I think it's really important that we look at the life of the Ahlul Bayt, our blessed Prophet, we look at the words of the Quran, and then we take away and change something about ourselves. This is the reason for the topic of today's show.
Definitely.
Now, Haji, there's vast amounts of stuff that's available. I could do a Google search right now and I could find so much stuff on Islamic theology, on fiqh, on jurisprudence. I could go on social media and find information. I could go to scholars. I could go to a library. There's vast amounts of books. It's just a very simple question. Where do you start? You start, as the Quran says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. Ask those of knowledge in kuntum la ta'lamun, if you don't know.
Quran says, if you don't know something, look for those of remembrance.
Okay.
Look for those who know, who are aware. Attach yourself to them. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. You know, ask those who are in remembrance.
Okay.
Not they sometimes remember the right or not. They are in remembrance. And of course, the narrations tell us the Imams of Ahlulbayt are Ahlul Dhikr. They are those people who are constantly in that stage.
Yes.
And so the issue now is that, you know, in the time of the Ghaiba especially, we don't have Zahiran. Not all of us have the ability to go and ask the Imam directly.
Yeah.
Some do, and some are doing this.
Yes.
But not everyone has the ability to do that.
No.
And so it's not like also in Ghaibat the Sughra where there are set representatives who you'd go and ask any question you have. Because the companions asked the Imams on every issue that they had.
Yes.
The kind of things that we know, kind of things we don't know, kind of things we can speak about, kind of things we can't even speak about. Like
Yes.
every intimate detail of their life they would ask the Imams about. And I don't have that right now.
That's right.
But what I do have is a Quran which is completely authentic and true. And I have a, you know, breadth and compilations of ahadith of the Imams where they have spoken at length about the kind of things that we need in our lives. The task for me and you today is to seek that knowledge like it's our lost property, to find the narrations of the Imams, to study their words. There are different ways. You know, while I was thinking about this topic, I realized that me and you, me more than you, I don't know about yourself, but all my life I've been around Shi'i institutions and ulama and these things, and I've had access to them.
Yeah.
But there are people listening probably at home who either they live in towns where there are not ulama around, you live somewhere where you're not around a Shia community, for example.
Yes.
Or you live in countries where there's not that much mu'mineen.
Yes.
Or forget the geography of it. You're in a stage of life now where because of your commitments or you're busy, you don't get to, you know, join the warmth of the hive as much as you would want to be in those gatherings. And so it becomes a very personal journey to gain knowledge and to seek knowledge. First thing I would say is find out the method that you learn best.
Okay.
The way that you learn.
Yes.
Some people are visual learners.
Yeah.
Some are touch learners.
Yes.
Some are auditory learners.
Yes, the
Some are
fact
copy
learner
learners.
style, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Find out how you learn. There's no point if I put in front of you Nahj al-Balagha and you don't like reading that much anyway, and here is this 500-600 page book that I'm going to look at, and it's going to be in my corridor, it's going to be in my bookshelf. People walk in, they always see Nahj al-Balagha, but I've never opened it up.
Yeah.
There's no point doing that.
No.
There's no point me giving you a list of speakers who've given series on topics that are interested and needed if you're not someone who can pay attention, because it's not how you learn.
Yeah.
First thing is about yourself. Like, how do you learn?
Yes.
What is it? Podcasts? Is it when you're driving?
Yeah.
Is it book circles, discussions?
Yeah.
Identify what it is. And then it's a matter of finding the resources available or creating them yourself, in which we are translating that all of that body of knowledge we have in that method of learning. So let's say someone likes reading, for example.
Yeah.
We have amazing books,
Of course.
online and in person, bookshops that we are
audio books and everything.
all of that.
Course, it's all accessible.
Alislam.org, for example, and others like this. Let's say you like listening.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing podcasts. My podcast, by the way, is available on YouTube and Spotify.
Don't forget about Sayyid Abbas.
A Monthly Reflections podcast. But there are so
good.
many. I'll mention others. You know, Mizan Institute have some good podcasts these days. Thaqalain podcast. There are others which are doing a really good job. You know, Progeny podcast.
Yes.
And you listen because that's how you gain knowledge.
That's it.
Let's say you are someone who learns through education.
Yeah.
It's not just about Majalis al-Hussein, education.
Education,
Okay,
yeah.
sign up to a course,
Yeah.
an online hawza, an online madrasa,
Yeah.
a course where you can follow in a structured learning pattern on a book that is good for us. Okay, let's say you're someone who likes to be taught, or you like someone who needs interaction when you are doing these things. There are many amazing book circles happening right now.
That's
in
right.
London there are a few really good ones.
Yeah.
But there are others around as well where you can sign up and meet with friends
you
and
could
go
create
through.
your own, right?
Or your phone.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Kauthar Learning Circle is so successful right now is because there's people in Toronto, in Ontario, in Canada, in London, in Watford, wherever, and they get together and they just read the books of Sheikh Shumali, and then when they check with him, and he might advise them, but they do it themselves.
Yes, that's
like
right.
that approach is so good.
Yeah, definitely.
So you find what works for you,
Yes.
and you find the resources that are effective for you.
That's
the
really
way that it's
important.
needed.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
Because you're honing into it. But let me go back to the internet. Okay.
Right.
I'm a revert. I came to this religion. How was I supposed to know what's an authentic hadith and what's not an authentic hadith? What's the right form of jurisprudence? What's the wrong fiqh?
Yeah.
You know, because the internet, social media is so vast. There's so many books out there. How do I know I'm picking up the right book? How do I know I'm going to the right website?
That is true. And it's not just only for reverts. People in general who are not experts on these issues will not know the authenticity or the veracity of what they're reading.
Yes.
That is true. Here's where ulama come into play.
That's right.
Scholars who complete what we know as secondary literature, where it's not literally the Quran or the Hadith, but it's a commentary they're doing, or a compilation they have made, or a lecture series based on a book or a narration. Those are really important.
Yes.
And in the Hawza, of course, we're taught, the knowledge of Hadith and the knowledge of fiqh and usul al-fiqh to know how a ruling is derived, who is a thiqah and who is not a reliable transmitter. In what books do we have issues, what books do we not have issues, and all those discussions happen in a Hawzawi environment.
Yes.
That's the place for it. A good scholar is someone who's able to explain those things to you when you ask them a question, but also link what you need to where is the authentic place for it.
Yeah.
If you ask me a question about Quran, for example,
Yeah.
I should not give you an inauthentic book of tafsir and say, read this book.
Yeah.
And alims will say to you, okay, like Quran, here are a few books that are very good and authentic and based on how you study, and you go through them. Now, accessing ulama is what you're really asking. Because me and you might not know what a hadith is authentic. We don't know which alim is a'lam. When choosing a marja taqleed, there are three ways of choosing.
Yes.
The first way is when you yourself have yaqeen, this person is a'lam, they're the most knowledgeable.
Yeah.
The second way is when a reliable person tells you that this person is, in their opinion, a'lam.
Yes.
So you trust them.
Yes.
The third method is when ulama and scholars who are of that rank designate a name or a few names, they are also a'lam. They are the highest. So we rely on scholars who we have access to explain to us the level of scholars who we might not understand what they have studied, in Najaf and in Qum, but these ulama explain to us their rank. So we need scholars for that. Books, again, how many great ulama who are here in London and other places in the UK and in America have written amazing new literature and new works? So many.
Yeah,
and now so it's different now. It used to be that we had books in Arabic and in Farsi which were translated. That was the whole extent of knowledge transfer in Shi'ism. And sometimes you had poor translations, you had the wrong books being translated. Sometimes the same book being translated 3 times. It's like, okay, I get it, but like, what should I be reading?
Yeah.
Now you have scholars writing in English, which is actually different, and it should be remarked upon. This is fresh scholarship which is being done in the language. It's been made in the language in which it's going to be read, and thereby it can also solve the social issues which are happening in our society right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Sheikh Javad Shamali, some of his books right now. Here's why they're so good. It's written by someone who understands the climate we are in right now.
Yeah.
And what that then means
West,
is...
he's been living in the West most of his life.
And he studied both,
Yeah.
but he's living here.
Yeah.
So he understands the issues that are happening in front of us.
That's
you
it.
know what I mean? Sheikh Hilli's book on Jannat al-Baqi, for example.
Yeah.
This book is,
Great
if
book.
anything, a call to arms because we are in the West. It's like, what can we do for al-Baqi?
Yes.
It's not been written 100 years ago about what is happening right now.
Yeah, it's a modern book,
Right.
a modern tongue, and it's very understandable and digestible.
When Sid Hussein Nasr writes in America on an issue of philosophy, it's comparative philosophy, a lot of it. So now it's like, okay, I understand what Islam thinks, but how does this link to, Western liberalism
Yes.
or feminism
Yeah.
or Marxist theory? Like, how does it link together?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Nasr's ever written about Marxism, but in any case, it's like, how do these things link together?
Yeah, yeah.
This movement of fresh English literature and scholarship is so important.
Yes.
It's directed at the issues that we have right now, and we need more of it. So
Yeah,
those are the kind of places we can go to.
True, and we've got scholars that sit on the member, and again, accessibility in terms of, YouTube and Ahlulbayt's platform, online platform, the app, etc.
Yeah.
You can listen to somebody like Sheikh Jafar Ladak, who was on the previous show, who's very political minded, who will come and looks at things in a different way. What's gone viral recently was his talk about TikTok.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and TikTok being in China and the Far East, you're getting a different kind of version of TikTok.
We had non-Muslims commenting on that. It's very
gone
interesting.
viral. Like literally, there's people that are remixing it, and it's people coming up. People that I know from my previous life in music are very big in the industry. They're reposting it and retagging it and asking me who's this guy. So that's the power of it. That we've got some contemporary speakers and contemporary scholars that give us this opinion from a Western society, but they increase our knowledge as we continuously watch them and follow others, and it leads on and leads on. But it takes you right back to what you just said, which is a phenomenal point about the VAC learning style. Are you visual, audio, or kinesthetic? Are you touchy-feely? To know yourself, to know, again, like we go right back to that point, to know yourself is to know your Lord.
Exactly.
If you know your learning style and what you absorb the best, then
you know God better, truthfully. You know Allah better.
Course,
if you know how you learn and you can talk to Allah in the way that makes sense to you personally, you will understand the intimacy of the presence of God much more. نحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد وcloser than your jugular vein is not just a slogan. It's like you have to find God. You have to find Allah in yourself somehow.
That's it,
and when you touch on something which feels divine in you, because there's divinity in all of us, that's when you can kind of retrace your way back into the collective memory of insan to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Khaliq.
Yes.
But that journey is different for all of us.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
if we're talking about knowledge, it would not be good for me to say, okay, we should all go and read this book, because it's like people learn differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can go backwards if a method of learning or a speaker or whatever is not working for you. It's not right to force yourself to know God in a way that doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why we need to be aware of how we learn and what makes sense for us, and then find the resources that are tailored for the way you have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's brilliant. And even within reading the book, people have different capabilities and capacities to absorb that information.
Yeah.
Me, for instance, I probably read a book about 7 times. And that's no joke, to actually absorb it 100%, because I have mild dyslexia. But to be able to, I love to read, I'm actually addicted to reading, but to take in it all, I'll read a passage, and if I really like it, 6-7 times for it to just digest.
Yeah.
So knowing your capacity as well is really
My
important.
method's different too with me. Like sometimes there's books where you literally can't put them down once you've read them, and that happens all the time.
Yes.
But sometimes if I'm interested in a theme, like I can't just read one book on it at once.
You've got to read several.
So I have several books open at once, and now before I read them, I will segment what areas are linked together among the different. For Sirat al-Nabi, I did this, for example. Every Shahr Ramadan, I read about the life of the Prophet.
Yes.
And I'll get multiple biographies, because I will lose, it's not that I lose attention, but my mind needs, personally, it needs to have that contrast, that kind of that approach to understand the essence of a thing that's been reported second or third hand. So for me, I'll have for example, Majlisi's work here, Qarashi's work over there, Rasul Ja'fariyan's work over there, Ja'far Subhani's work over the Message. And then I'll read it'll take me longer. Yeah. But that's just how I learn.
Yeah, of course.
And it's good to find the way that you learn.
Yeah,
there's some people, for example, Sheikh Shamali has this book, Islamic Belief System, is a seminal book, and for anyone who wants to, is either a revert or just wants to re-understand their religion for the first time in a different way, or take their deen more seriously. I would say it's the best book to start.
What's the name
Islamic
of the book?
Belief System.
Islamic Belief System.
Okay, here's why I mention it right now. That book used to be literally a normal book that you'd read academically.
Yeah.
Then it became a picture book with diagrams and examples that you can teach to children.
Wow.
Then it became an online course by the Sheikh, where he's delivering it as a series, as a course.
Wow.
Then it became a series of workshops in different communities on that book.
Wow.
Now you can choose what method works for you.
Of that.
Literally, and that's one book, and no doubt because of the sincerity of the teacher, there is barakah in the project. But if I'm someone, inshallah, who only benefits from a workshop style, that book will not be that useful for me unless I'm sitting with someone and going through it in that way.
Yes.
And this is called taking responsibility for your knowledge, not being a passive recipient of it.
Yes.
Taking the initiative. I want to learn something, and I know how I learn, what I need. So go out and seek it. Go out and find that knowledge. It belongs to you more than your own clothes and wealth belong to you. Seek it like you have been lost, and you're trying to find yourself. And you find your Lord through that process, but you need to take that step up to gain knowledge in that way. You can't let it happen. You have to seek it and not rest until you find it.
You've got to go and get it, haven't you? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with that single step. But the single step, you have to take that single step.
It can be the hardest one. But once you've got that one, there's only stairs to go.
That's it. Finished. Once you get to that point of actually taking that first step, the momentum takes you. Once you start finding your way of doing it, then like we're drinking water, it quenches the thirst. And knowledge is something to quench the thirst of the believer. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So, Sayyidina, do we have a responsibility for spreading our knowledge? I know obviously we're here today and we're trying to spread what little knowledge we have. And how can we do so? How can we approach that for ourselves? You give majalis yourself. You've got many little seminars going on. You've also started the South London Youth Club. You thinking of things in different aspects, very textual kind of stuff with the youth. but then you're on the member and you're delivering. Now, I'm honored to know you from in your younger days. You're still a young man as well, but to see you grow and to see you now taking your next steps to go to Hausa in the next few months. We're not going to be able to have access to you for much longer.
I'll miss you more than you know.
Well, honestly, we will miss you. Our viewers will miss you, but we'll grab you for a few more shows until maybe February when you go. But
Inshallah.
what's the responsibility of somebody who's gaining ilm like you have? What's on your shoulders right now?
It is difficult. There are a lot of narrations about spreading knowledge and establishing knowledge, not just being someone who studies alone and these kind of things.
Yeah.
But because you asked me personally, I'll give you a personal view. I mean, whenever I'm preparing a lecture or discussion or something like that, I always ask myself two questions, which is whatever I'm about to speak about, is it something which is interesting or is it something which is important? And it needs to be both.
Yes.
Because there are many things that are very interesting to me, very interesting.
Yes.
But they're not needed in the community or the society as such.
Yes.
And there are many things, honestly, which are very important, but I'm not personally my essence interested in those things.
Yeah.
We need to discuss so many things, and it's not like I'm always want to about all of them myself. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I have my own interests.
Of course.
It's something which I'm afraid of, in fact.
No.
So we have to find...
I share some of your passions.
You know what I mean?
Well.
Yeah, so we're all right, me and you. But so when I speak, it's like it should be something interesting where like people are interested in that thing, or I'm interested in that thing, at least to speak about something.
Yeah.
But it should be needed in that society. Now, when I go around communities, and you as well, and we see different people, we see genuine issues in different areas.
That's right.
But the issues are not the same. And I think the responsibility is to plug those gaps, to have a kind of higher general level of knowledge of our community. Some communities have real issue with aqaid.
Yes.
Belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the problem of evil, understanding why the Prophet is needed in our lives, understanding Ahlulbayt, about intercession of the Ahlulbayt and istighatha and all of those things. That's what they need to look at.
So you're tailoring your delivery to the audience that's in front of you.
That's what's needed for them, because remember, you can't do taqleed on aqaid. You can't follow a scholar for what they believe about Allah.
No.
That's on you. Alaykum anfusikum. That's on you to figure out for yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Some communities have real issues with fiqh. They don't do taqleed, for example, or don't understand it, let alone understand why they should or shouldn't do it. They might not have respect for certain ulama, or they might be too fanatical or too extreme in one view or the other, and not understand and appreciate the breadth of scholarship that we have.
Yes.
Or they don't understand why you turn to a fatwa when you go to a hukum, what's the difference between them, like all those things.
Yes.
That's what they need to look at. And there's some who have many issues with certain ahkam, like why can't we listen to music?
Yes.
Is tattoos halal or haram?
Yeah.
What rulings on marriage? Like those kind of things always come
You've
up.
been watching Ask the Scholar, haven't you? They're the kind of repeat questions that we can
Those
hear.
are classic regular questions.
Regular questions,
God bless the Sayyid and his patience that he addresses
may Allah reward him,
Some
honestly.
have, now obviously we might all have different issues. I'm saying when we have like a genuine problem, which I have seen, in one area in particular, there is a weakness in those areas. Some issues, it's other things. It could be anything. It could be philosophy. So communities have extremities in different areas. So the role of knowledge then is to be the thing that restores that community to its health. If it is too sick in a certain direction, or if it's lacking or it's too young, it's to raise that community in a higher degree.
Yes.
And now I think that's what we need. We need to know exactly what issues are being faced in this community right now that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of researching and preparing and going to ulama and linking the right type of knowledge to the right area that is needed for that knowledge. We don't want to become echo chambers where we are repeating again and again what we already know.
Same thing after again.
At some point, those religions of slogans and phases become weak and faulty, and we were never meant to be like that. We were meant to be أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, do you not use your aql? That's what we were asked.
Yes.
Well, I'm not meant to be a community which is based on the repetition of things that the elders or that has been done for centuries. That's not the point. The point is growth, and the growth of a community with knowledge.
Yeah, it's not eat and repeat, is it?
No, and that's what it becomes. So in answer to your question, we need to look at where there are issues and locate the precise problems that we have in those communities, and then link them with the type of knowledge that's actually going to have a useful element for them.
Yes.
That's the point. Useful knowledge.
Yes, definitely. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot of, even on your shoulders, but for everybody, I think that is gaining knowledge, gaining the ilm, whether religious knowledge or just life knowledge.
Yeah.
I feel there is a responsibility on that person to be sharing that with people. So, ultimately people will make similar mistakes, but people need to be cautious of it. You know, when your father would say, don't do this, don't go there, don't do that.
Yeah.
I've done that, I've been burnt, don't put your hand in the fire, it's
Right.
hot. But as a child, you will still put your hand in the fire because there's that inquisitiveness
Yeah.
of doing it. But when you've learned something about where you can be good and a better person and how you can get somebody from A to B in a quicker route, I think that's where the knowledge comes into play. And that's our duty as elders. I'm elder to you, obviously, quite obviously, because he's still got no grey hair yet.
Elder to many of us.
To many people. It's a duty that falls upon my shoulders and others' shoulders to spread that knowledge and say, you know, don't walk down that path. Now, going back to your studies, because I'm really intrigued about this, and I think our viewers will be really intrigued. You're heading to Najaf very shortly, next few months.
Inshallah.
You're smiling, I'm not, our viewers are not. And I know there's people that are going to really miss you, but we're really happy for you. You know, you deserve this. It's something on your next path and your next step, and may Allah guide you and keep you straight. And of course, if you've got any questions at all, don't ring me. But how do you go about choosing a hawza? How do you choose? I go to Qom, I go to Mashhad, I go to Najaf, I study in Karbala, Lebanon, you know, where all these houses are. How do you make a decision like that?
Well, there's two things. It's the choice of hawza. Once you've chosen the path of hawza, is about what the student needs, where they feel they can get it, the amount of time they have to study, their linguistic ability, and all of those things. But before that comes choosing to walk the path of hawza itself. With me personally, you know, I have an academic background and a professional background.
Yeah.
I did law at university with international relations, have a master's in political theory from the LSE, and have, you know, qualifications in social sciences and politics and law. That's my field.
Yeah.
And as you know, professionally, it's human rights law, it's homelessness and refugees, and like that's...
I'm very practical with it as well, you know, working alongside the homeless, to work with charities.
We've done a lot together.
So we've done a lot together, so we know a lot about each other's past. But
we've worked very closely together in these fields. But that's like a part of my life, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the other part of my life personally is like literally the first week that I started my undergraduate, I also started at the Hawza Almiya of England in Woolston Green, an amazing institution which I maintain good relations with, and I encourage everyone to study and consider studying there if they want to, you know, study Hawza, even part-time or flexible or just on a weekend, or to begin that transition to studying Hawza more seriously. It's a great, you know, it has that great utility. So I started part-time while I'm at uni, when I started both together. So it would literally be like half the week I'd be at uni, the other half week I'd be at Hawza, or morning uni, evening Hawza. Like I'd split my time in that way, and also be working as well along the side. So I've always walked those paths together. The stage I'm in now, it's like I mentioned to you before, the knowledge of the Hawza and of Islam is entirely distinct to any other knowledge that we have. If you're looking for that light which is guided on your heart, go to our ulama, go to our Hawzat, go to Najaf, go to Qom, go to Mashhad, go to Karbala, go to Jabal Amil, go to Damashq, go to these places, and when you see the scholars who are there, you see that knowledge has affected them, it has changed them, they've been raised by knowledge. Everything they do and speak comes from a place of understanding the Quran and Ahlulbayt. It is an entirely distinct way of looking at the world when you look at it through the eyes Ahlulbayt have blessed you with, because now you're looking for the beauty of God around you. Now you don't just read Quran, you understand what you are reading. And so at that path, the way that my journey I'm on is the path that I wish to follow for my own research, for studying. And I chose Najaf al-Ashraf mainly because this is the capital of the Shia world. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the city of knowledge. It has been so for over 1,000 years, since even, you know, Sheikh Tusi established it after leaving Baghdad in the post-Abbasid era. Najaf has always been, it's had ups and downs in terms of political climate, but I feel the knowledge that you find in the city of Amir al-Mu'mineen, in those winding lanes of Najaf, in those ancient libraries, in those iconic masajid, all of them circulating and doing tawaf of the center of this entire place, the markaz, not only of Najaf but of this world, in the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That was always very attractive to me growing up. And now I've reached a stage where I think it's needed for my own growth, and it is my target, inshallah. And I pray that this idea which came to study, inshallah, it came from the Ahlulbayt themselves. I'm able to follow it through. But there are many good hawzat, but that's just the path that I've been on.
Yeah, of course, definitely. You know, to our viewers, maybe our young viewers, that they've reached a level of knowledge and they want to push further, what should they do from there? You know, they've kind of hit a bit of a barrier. How would they increase that knowledge a little bit further?
Most definitely, first of all, find yourself an ustad.
Okay.
An ustad is, in our ancient tradition, a teacher of not just knowledge, but of you, your growth. Find someone who's almost like a mentor, but an ustad is someone who's has walked the path that you wish to walk already.
Yes.
If it's ma'rifat, they've been there and back. If it's fiqh, they are in that same school of studying jurisprudence. An ustad is someone who also takes care of you in terms of monitors your growth. It's someone who you report to, who you are honest with. They are like your father in many ways. Find someone like that.
So like an Islamic mentor.
Exactly what it is. And interestingly, it's literally part of our tradition to have this.
Okay.
They say every Musa has a Khidr. You know, everyone should have an ustad. Okay. It's not just about finding the most knowledgeable person. It could be your resident alim as well. There's someone who understands you and the path you are on.
MashaAllah.
And you consult with this person around you for matters of the heart and matters of your plans and your life. And pick someone, you know, and if you find someone who it's not working, you can choose someone else. But when you feel that safety with someone to share about your journey, that's the one who gives you advice and guides you. So find a teacher, number one, and ustad in that way. And then share with them your plans. And if they've walked on this path, they can advise you. It could be different. Some people, it could be useful for them to leave to go to a different country and study hawza, literally instead of going to uni. There are people for whom that is the best thing.
Yeah, of course.
Then there are those for whom actually, it's better you stay in the country you're from and gain knowledge while you're here, because it might be more useful for the community for you to be doing a certain function that you're doing. Like, it is different for everyone.
Of course.
And charting out your path is not easy. I would also advise going to ziyarah and seeking tawassul of Ahlulbayt. This is their religion. Speak to Imam Zamana alayhi salam. When you are talking to the Imam, mention this to him, that I'm struggling with this, I'm not sure what I should be doing. And inshallah, an answer will come to you from the barakah of the Imam through his lutf, through his grace, which is communicated to you in a way that you understand. And keep linking these things with our tradition, with our Imams, with our scholars, with our books. If I can give one bit of practical advice on this, it is try it. Like, try it. Try either
Put your foot into the water.
Sign up to one of these houses, online houses, or these, you know, in the city that you are from. Or go for a 1 month or a 3 week or a 6 month.
They do these Najaf retreats or whatever,
Mainstay Foundation have one right now, which you can go and join in Najaf. MSCN take you to Iran. Al-Asr takes you to Iran. These are all legendary projects which have always been there, and people have decided if they want this path or not by trying this out.
Little taster.
Sign up to taste the Hawza courses. See if it works for you. Go to different places. Don't restrict yourself to only one body of thinking alone. It's very problematic. Even though I'm from one particular madrasa, there's beauty in so many of them.
Of course, definitely.
And being in one shouldn't restrict you from appreciating the other.
Of course.
But try it.
You must read from different libraries.
Get out there and literally get out there and try it. Sign up to these things. It's not easy to get out the door. Some people I know think that, you know, I'm a sinner. I have been in this path, and Hawza is a pure path, and it's not for me. It's too much for me. But I don't think that's good enough. You are worth so much more than how you view yourself sometimes.
Definitely.
You are worth being a recipient of knowledge, of true ilmun sahih, correct knowledge.
You've got to open yourself up.
You have to, and you have to trust yourself, and you have to see the value in yourself. Sometimes we devalue ourselves and make these things so unattainable. Not just Hawza. Someone says that, like, I am a sinner, so how can I pray in front of God? I have done so much wrong, so I'm shy to wear the hijab now, because it's like these are unattainable targets, and they're not. They're not. They are things we can all try and walk that path without feeling any shame or guilt, because you're not doing it for anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. God has created you with honor. And so see that honor in yourselves.
Beautiful.
So I advise everyone to literally just go ahead and try. We mentioned so many names of things today.
We have, definitely.
Google them, find out those projects, reach out to myself or Brother Neil, and take that step forward in this path, because everyone has a role to play in gaining and spreading knowledge, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Well, we wish you, all the best on your journey, and we will, inshallah, grab you back for a couple more shows before you leave. Just have 2 minutes left of the show, Sayyid. I'm just going to ask you, can you tell the viewers Can you recommend one book? One book for them to read.
One book for what? Just
to read, to gain some knowledge. Something that what's on your bookshelf right now that you're picking up?
This is literally the hardest question. One book.
Yeah, I know. Well, you just came to my house and we just discussed the book, so.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if there is a particular book that is one book.
And you've got 1 minute to do it in as well. No pressure. The viewers are waiting for you.
Alright, just give me. I'm trying to, because I think we need to learn more about Imam Zaman alayhi salam. I think that for sure.
Yeah.
We need to gain more knowledge of our Imam and understand him better. As for a book which is for this, I think Murtaza Laka has a good book on the 12th Imam.
Yes.
And
very good book.
That book, The Missing Link, is good. I would say, yeah, those two, but find a book of Imam Zaman alayhi salam on the Dhuhr of the Imam. Ayat Khamanai has a good book on this as well. And spend your time in the company of the 12th Imam, in understanding his life, how he lives, what he expects from us, his communication to our ulama and to ordinary regular people as well. And let the Imam alayhi salam be with you on your journey in gaining knowledge. So I would say find a book of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, find a lecture series on the Imam as well, find a podcast on the Imam, find something which links you and connects you directly to your Imam, and allow that one step towards him be reciprocated by a step towards you from him, inshallah.
Asante. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, Sayyid.
No, it's hard.
Alhamdulillah, Sayyid Abbas Fashuri, it's been always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Pleasure is mine.
And thank you
for
for your time. We've covered quite a lot of topics today, dear viewers. We've gone from the Holy Quran to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, to understand the virtues of gaining knowledge. The word knowledge has no ledge. From cradle to the grave, you should continuously seek that what sprinkles within you flows within us. And let's take those lessons, inshallah, as we move forward. We've talked about the internet, social media, looking at your learning styles and adapting your learning styles to suit your way of gaining wisdom and knowledge. And it's our duty to continuously share that, inshallah ta'ala. We'll be back next week, inshallah, where we look at the blessed birth anniversary of Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. And we'll see you there, same time, same place. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Register your